Hello, and welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. I'm your host, Antoinette Blake, the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger. And every week I come to you with podcasting pointers that will help you to share your mission and your vision just using your voice. A new episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast publishes every Saturday at 10 a.m. And if you wish to sponsor a show, please send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com. Again, a welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. Listen in and share with a friend. Hello, and welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. I'm your host, Antoinette Blake, the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger. And today on episode number 303, we're going to be talking about blogging or podcasting for a business. That's right. If you're a business owner who's looking to establish your online presence, or you're looking to expand and broaden your brand, there are several marketing tips that you can try. However, in addition to trying those tips and posting on social media, many of you may be asking whether or not to start a blog or a podcast to get more eyes on your content and perhaps more feet through the door. Now, we know that both podcasts and blogs have been successfully used in launching a new business. So it's really not whether it's a question or not, should you have a podcast or a blog? It's really which is better for you and your business. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on the Delaware Blogger Podcast.
Are you ready to join the billion-dollar podcasting industry? If so, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is ready for you. Whether you're just starting out and have no equipment, or you're a seasoned pro but need help with production, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio has everything you need. Conveniently located in Middletown, Delaware, Blake's state-of-the-art production facilities make producing your first or 100th podcast a breeze. No matter what kind of project you have in mind, the professionals at Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio can help with your production or give you the tools to produce it on your own. At the heart of Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is award-winning blogger, vlogger, and CEO Antoinette Blake, and her goal is simple: to help one more entrepreneur be successful. So stop making excuses and start making your podcast, audiobook, e-course, and other online dreams come true. Call Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio now. 302-261-3530. That's 302-261-3530.
So let's begin. What is a podcast and what is a blog? Let's talk about these two forms of media. We know a podcast is digital audio files that's available for people to download and listen to on the internet, like this one, the Delaware Blogger Podcast, or Out and About with Antoinette. A blog is educational, informative, and entertaining, but it's a website with pieces of content or blog posts, and they're regularly published, for example, like on the Del Blogger. Now, starting a blog or podcast, let's talk about the pros and the cons. Podcast pros, let's begin with them. We all know it's a newer medium. Actually, I think the first podcast was created in 2004, and the very first blog was published in 1994. So podcasting is the baby of the bunch. A podcast showcases your personality, and it creates a deep connection with your audience. That's right. Your voice, them listening to you, plugged into your voice, is creating a great connection, an intimate connection. And this intimate connection is much more popular with the younger audiences. Now, at last stats, it said that 70% of listeners of a podcast are between the ages of 18 and 54. Well, that may be true, but I'm past the age of 54 and I listen to podcasts on a regular basis. And the number of podcast listeners is growing. I started my podcast in 2017. That's right. This podcast was created on Anchor FM in 2017. And back then, there weren't that many podcasters or active podcasters. Now there's over 100 million podcasts. That's great. But along with the podcasting pros, there's some cons or some challenges to podcasting. Some might find it more technically complicated and a bit more expensive than a blog, right? Because with a podcast, you can have a smartphone and a mic and you can get started on a free platform with Anchor. But as you grow and get bigger and more popular, you want to invest in equipment, your microphone, your headphones, and maybe even a better laptop and mixers. There's so much more to be added to a podcast as opposed to a blog. And one of the biggest challenges with a podcast is it's more time consuming. An hour podcast takes about 3 to 4 hours to produce, meaning writing out what it is that you want to talk about, recording, editing, inserting ads and music, going back, publishing. There's a lot of little nuances that goes into creating a podcast episode that you really don't have to worry about sitting down and writing or deleting, and typing up a blog post. So those are just a few pros of podcasting, but there's many others, especially if you want to get your word out. This is going to be an enhancement, not a replacement. Whether it's a blog or a podcast, it should be an enhancement or an additional tool in your marketing kit. So let's talk a little bit about the pros to blogging. That's right. You guys know I started DEDivaDeals.com, Fashion and Fun After 50 blog back in 2012. I loved to write. I loved to share fashion, fun, food, travel, family. That's right. I did product reviews, and these product reviews took me all over, including to Hollywood, California, to create a commercial. Remember that? Blogging takes less time. Yep. On an average, you can sit and write a blog post, add your pictures in less than 3.5 hours. I did it last night after dinner. I wanted to write about a new opening of a nail salon, which you check it out, yesterday's blog post, the Works Nail Salon in Dover. I had taken pictures while I was there, so I just really had to give you a few details, put the pictures in, schedule it, put the keywords in, and boom, done. Not so with a podcast. And definitely I could not have recorded that podcast episode at the dinner table with my family around. Creating a blog takes less technical expertise and fewer tools than it does for a podcast. I used to teach in local libraries how to start a blog. And really, if you love to write, you get on a free platform or a paid platform, which is WordPress, which I do. It is easy to start up a blog. The entry is low. Same with a podcast, but it's really easy because it's text-based. And you know what? Even though podcasts can be now found doing a Google search, the search engine optimization benefits on a blog is much, much higher. Another pro for blogging is it's quicker for your audience to consume. Most people can read a blog post in 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. But a podcast, 15, 20, 30 minutes or more for a podcast. Now, you can create, weekly 5-minute podcasts. That's great. But remember, you've got to have that information readily available, and you have to be in a place to do the recording, not in your car driving to the beach. In these hot days of the summer, you can do a blog post at the beach, but that's not something that you can do with a podcast. And according to the stats, users between the ages of 18 and 29 read blogs at least once a week. Now, the demographics for those age groups are lower. However, if your topic or your brand is popular, those demographics can be expanded. So those are a few pros when it comes to blogging. Let me give you some cons when it comes to blogging. First and foremost, you have to love to write. And if you don't love to write, you can dictate and then you can have it transcribed, but you want to make sure it's grammatically correct and it reads well. And there are a lot of tools out there, but really you want to love to write. Whether you're writing or talking, you're going to want to write a lot. And the publishing platform can be a little bit tricky. Even after all these years, with all these changes with WordPress, it's still, can be technically time consuming. And if you're not tech savvy, then that can be a problem. But let's think about this. The pros, the cons, they're both great. But which one is right for you and your business? Every business is different, and so is every business owner. So if you're trying to determine whether you want a podcast or a blog, you want to ask yourself just a few questions. The first question you want to ask, what are your talents? That's right. What's your personality? Are you shy, or are you a good writer? Do you want to think things through and write them down rather than talking? Then you should be a blogger. But do you have the gift of gab? And do you struggle just sitting down writing? If so, a podcast might be a better match. Your targeted audience. Who are you looking for? Are you looking to share fun and thought-provoking content that your audience can consume while they're, mowing the lawn, walking the dog, working out? Then a podcast. That's easy breezy, take along medium. Because no one can read, a podcast. No one can read a blog while they're driving, but you can definitely listen to a podcast while you're driving. And you think about your time. Think about the time that you have to promote and create your podcast and or your blog. Pictures, obviously, you have to have images or videos or memes or GIFs on text. You don't need that on a podcast. So there are a few more pros and cons for each. It's never an either or. It's what's best for you. And you can know what? You can do it both. I do it. Yeah. The Delaware Blogger Podcast, I repurpose the content on my blog, Del Blogger. So you like cross-promoting and repurposing your content, not only on your blog, but on your social media websites. But just remember, it's going to take time. It's going to take a little bit of money. It's going to take some resources. But regardless of which medium you choose, make sure it's for you. Don't let anyone talk you into starting a blog or starting a podcast when you know that you don't have the time commitment, the talent, or even the energy to do so. However, if you just want to chit chat and figure it out, you make sure send an email to me, info@ablakeenterprises.com. I'll set you up with a 15-20 minute discovery call. We can talk it out and, see what you want to do. And I also have resource guides, the Podcasting Your Purpose resource guides, edition 1 and 2. I'm going to leave the link to them where you could order. And also the Basic Blogging Tips for Beginners book. You can also purchase that. That's a quick, easy, breezy book that will help you get started. So again, thank you for listening to today's episode, number 303 of the Delaware Blogger Podcast. And don't forget, subscribe to my blog at delblogger.com because this is where all the show notes will be for each and every episode. Until the next time, this is the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger, wishing you and yours a beautifully blessed day. Bye-bye. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast. And if you found anything that I've said of interest to you, please subscribe and share it with others. You may even want to leave a rating or review. And check out a few other episodes too. I invite you to subscribe to my blog at delblogger.com, where you'll find more podcasting pointers and blogging tips and links to purchase a copy of the Basic Blogging Tips for Beginners or Podcasting Your Purpose resource guide on Amazon. I invite you to send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com to schedule a 15-minute complimentary discovery call or to enroll in the 5-week podcasting coaching session. So until the next time, this is the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger, wishing you and yours a beautifully blessed day. And remember, sharing is caring. So please share this episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast with your friends, your family, your bae, and your boo too. See ya. It's the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger.